the best attitude to apply to your day-to-day when you're trying to gain control over your mind. You know, you still gotta go to work, you still gotta deal with family, you still gotta do, you know, a bunch of stuff. Do you detach? Do you, you know, what's the best approach to tackling the hardships of day-to-day when you're trying to practice control, when you're trying to
You was here last week.
control your passions and all that? Should you try to remain detached at all times from everything you do? Like, 'cause some people talk about detachment. Some people talk, observance or give everything you do your 100%. Like,
Yeah,
how do you juggle everything?
You've been coming here for what, 2 or 3 years now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it's time to begin to use to apply what you learn. Have I ever told y'all to detach from the world? Okay, well then. Why would you do that?
I mean more like emotional detachment. Like not letting
Well, it's
things
not
bother
even
you.
emotional. What do I tell you to do? I tell you to do what? What's the number one thing I always say?
Sit in the silence.
Well, no, what is it?
That's the answer to everything.
To try to
What do you
find
do
that
with your
balance.
actions? What do you do with your actions?
Predetermined.
Predetermine your actions. By predetermining your actions, you can do what?
Create your outcome.
You can create your outcome. So then if you predetermine your actions, then in most cases the drama that lead you into emotional states or overindulging in certain things will do what? It will lessen, right? If you know that you have certain problems with certain substance abuse or whatever, then what do? Huh? Don't go to the bar.
Avoidance behavior.
So what you do, you predetermine your actions to do what? To just like Noel said, to what? To change your behavior pattern.
Cognitive behavior.
Because why? Because knowledge, understanding, brings about that power to do what? To predetermine your actions.
And what about like in our case, like at Nana, for example, we got to deal with the day-to-day and the frustrations of work and stuff like that. I mean, that's just something you kind of got to deal with, even though you predetermined that you got to deal with it. But
Yeah, but
what's the attitude like?
the attitude you have is that you do what? You trust and believe in what? The law of what? So what is karma?
A mathematical equation.
Pressure to conform.
Pressure towards conformity. So if you actually believe that, then you would know that things, in a sense, as long as you do what you got to do, things in a sense is going to work. It's going to work itself out. Now, by you doing the right things you need to do, you're going to help it work itself out. You're going to be part of that pressure. The worst thing someone, I remember this, I had to work with this Cuban guy, and he was an old mystic Cuban, real smart, and when I first met him, I didn't know he was a mystic. I knew something was about him, but as we began to talk, I learned he was a mystic. And he had the weirdest way of teaching you things. And he said, a guy that's hungry and out on his luck, he can go to a restaurant and he can say, listen, I don't have any money, I don't have any food, but I do whatever I need to do to work, to just get a meal. I work all day long just to get a meal or whatever. He said in most cases, especially in this country, he said the owners will flee him away, He said, but then a person can come in there and say, I'm a murderer, I'm a thief, you know, I did all these horrible things, and they pull out a roll of cash. And the person do what? Sell the food, you know, people have to deal with their own, now, of course, looking at that, you would get highly what? Upset, right? But the knowledge of the law of karma, it can make you smile, right? When you think about it, right? Because what's gonna happen?
He's gonna get what's coming to him.
He's gonna get what's coming, he's gonna get his just reward. The owner's gonna get his just reward. See? And it's so true. And the thing about it, and with that saying, let's say if that owner was right next to another person who owned a restaurant, and because this guy said the same thing to me. He said, what if this there was another restaurant right next to him, where this guy didn't have a capitalistic mentality. He took in the beggar, and and fed him, and then put him to work, and then when the gangster or mob character came by, he shooed him away. He said, what type of attitude would a guy who took the mob guy would have against the other guy? In most cases, what? No, I'm saying in most cases he couldn't stand that guy. He couldn't stand him because why? Because he, it's a reflection of him. That guy becomes a reflection of what he could be, but he isn't. So it makes him look ugly in the mirror. So in other words, he will always dislike people who show him a better way. Because why? He's not ready for a better way. He's not ready for a better way. He wants to continue to do what he do. So it's no reason for you to get upset because he wants to continue to do what he do. The only thing you can do is send him spiritual energy, hoping that he can absorb it to try to work through his failures. It's no reason to build anxiety up or get stressed out about it or let it affect you emotionally. Use the nanny, the knowledge and wisdom that's been given to you, throughout all these teachings to guide your steps. And then you won't be stressed out. Also, like I was telling Dwayne last night, take time to sit in the silence at least 5-10 minutes a day. That'll help you alleviate because it'll connect you to that internal power when you sit in the silence. You all notice that, right? You could feel that unbelievable power within you that's connected to the soul and the spirit. And then as you ponder and use and apply the knowledge and wisdom of the great teachers that's past, then you'll be able to assimilate it better and apply it better. Better than you don't have to wonder about what you need to do. There's no reason if karma is the law of God, and it's a pressure towards conformity. So at one point, everyone have to conform. Even a Satan have to conform. At one point. So it's no reason to be stressed out about it. Go back to the law. Go back to just make sure you're doing what you need to do, so that you don't get caught up in all the pressure. Towards conformity. Just deal with your own pressure towards conformity. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other question?
in the guidelines in mind control, it says in number 7, you must give up all hopes and prejudices. The hope part, let's say like you have a plan for what you want to be or want to do in the future. You hope you want to be that, or you desire to be that. Is there something wrong with that? Is that something you have to detach yourself from? Because that in itself is kind of like a desire and a hope.
If you want to be what now?
Let's say you want to be like a teacher or a healer, a really good one, like in the future. Is that something you have to detach yourself from?
No. I mean, this is a lot of times when they speak like this is talking about it more of a negative hope or selfish hope or personal hope, because you see it's followed by what?
Prejudice.
Prejudice. You understand what I'm saying? So by by giving up so-called hope, right? You're not really giving up a positive hope. You're giving up a negative hope, or a hope that's sprung out of ignorance, or a hope that's sprung out of no applied knowledge. Because if you predetermine your actions, then if you want to be that particular thing, you will be that. Regardless of your hope. Because why? You have applied what? What you applied to it? Knowledge and energy. Right? So that's a type of understanding or knowledge that they put behind those things. Any other questions? Y'all had a question?
Yeah, trying to formulate them. But you answered them yesterday.
Do you recommend to to live by these guidelines before going deep into the practices of like mantra and?
No. You could do all that stuff simultaneously. You could do it simultaneously. No. Not necessary.
But it makes it more difficult, like if you're not really, let's say you're still kind of like arguing, or still have some wants and those things.
Yeah, but you're gonna do that anyway. What you want to do is lessen it. Don't be an extremist. What you want to do is move forward in a gradual way and eliminate those things that you can eliminate as you gain the power to eliminate them. You don't want to be an extremist and just drop it all. It's very few people can do that. It's just like most people. I've been a vegetarian all my life, but most people who come to the path through me, they will say, well, I'm going to stop eating meat too, and they try to drop it all at once. And I immediately tell them, don't do that.
I did that.
Take your time and eliminate those meats that you can eliminate, and check yourself, little by little in a gradual way, so that when you do stop, you stop. You don't go back to it. Because majority of times, people who just do a cold stop or something, they fall right back to it in some type of way. So, because why? They haven't they haven't thought it through. They haven't predetermined things properly. So what you wanna do, you wanna go at it in a gradual way with eyes wide open, you know, and eliminate those things. Gain the strength and knowledge and understanding as you eliminate them. Don't just take it on and wrestle it down, you know, like you Hercules or Samson. Doesn't work like that. You know, very few people can do that. So you take a gradual approach. If you look out into the universe, everything moves at a gradual pace. It's rare that things happen just boom. You know. So walk with nature, move with nature. You know, don't try to make it all happen overnight. You know, don't do that. Unless you're using the Devic night, which is 6 months. So don't, you know, don't do that.
Come again?
Just to gradually.
You know, the divas, they say the diva's night is 6 months, and the diva day is 6 months. It takes 6 months to complete one diva day, and 6 months to complete one diva night. So, unless it's like that, you know, don't try to do it overnight. Take your time. You know, things don't have to happen right away. Surprised y'all don't have more questions.
At least got some.
Y'all make quiet. Hold on. That's lost. It's here. It's lost. I guess 'cause that thing happened. Yeah.
And like a lot of these like tips or whatever, like sound like things you hear like every day, like in this therapy, things like that. It's like what really makes this different than other things?
What are you talking about?
Like this.
Exactly. From what page you looking at? Oh, the mind control? It's related to Raja Yoga. And Raja Yoga is an ancient science of Hinduism, okay? And it means, it actually is it's learning mental control. It's a development, it's mental development. The simplest, that's the simplest definition for it. And what it is exactly is yoga means union, union with God, right? And Raja, actually is referred to as king or royal or you know, of the yogas. Because why? Because it deals with the mental aspects of development. And we know that in yoga, we know that mind, what we believe, or we know, that mind does what with energy? What does mind do with energy? Anybody?
Molds and shapes it.
It molds, right? And shapes energy. Right? It doesn't matter if that energy is subtle, right? Is that right? Or is it the other way? Subtle or what? Or gross, right? Mind molds and shapes energy. So in other words, the techniques of Raja Yoga, that's what it does. The first part of Raja Yoga is what?
Yama.
Is Yama, right? Was the 8 limbs of yoga, they call it. And Yama is control or restraint. Right? Niyama is what? Anyone?
Observance.
Observance of what?
Self?
Huh?
Is your mind of self?
Reservance of what? Moral or religious customs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's usually those things that help you to correct your actions morally, to walk a moral life without hurting other people so much. And 3 is what? Sana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the right way to spell it?
ASANA. Yeah, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
This right here is the correct posture, or what I like to call mudra yoga. And then 4 is what?
Pranayama.
Pranayama. And this is also the control of prana, right? Which is done through what?
The breath.
Breathe. Breathing.
It's done through breath, right? Through breath control. The other thing. Is that it?
PRATYA.
It's TY?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a D in there?
No, there's an A after the Y.
Or a house, you know? so the next one is, number 6 was concentration, directing the thoughts down one channel. Number 7 is contemplation, bringing about prolonged concentration to allow the mind to pick up psychic senses. And then number 8 is meditation, which is deep samadhi, right? Or a state that leads to deep samadhi, I should say. State that leads to deep samadhi. Or let's say deep meditation, which is samadhi. What does all this mean? These are thousands and hundreds of years, thousands of years ago. Patanjali actually took these sutras and organized them and placed them in a way so that we can understand them. Now, what does this right here, this section here, actually prepares us to do this section here? Okay? In other words, if you begin to control your actions, right? You know, through a series of different yamas, which yamas mean control, then you begin to mold and shape your behavior. And what does this do for you? What it actually does for you is it begins to mold or purify your auric body. Let's say you have an auric body, right? Everybody know what an auric body is, right?
Mental body.
There's more than a mental body.
This level.
Everybody have an aura around their body, let's say. An aura. Everybody know this is so because now we have cameras that can actually photograph the aura, right? So the aura, the same way this earth has an atmosphere around it, each one of us have an atmosphere around ourselves. It's just the same way that the atmosphere of this earth is just as much part of the solid part of this earth. The atmosphere around us is just as much a part of us, because it is the atmosphere around this earth that what? It determines what lives on the earth, right? We know that, right? If we continue to release toxins in the atmosphere, what will happen to the earth? It will change, right? Because why? It'll go into our water supply. It'll go into our green life, which is the plant life. The plant life that produces oxygen that allows us to breathe will be contaminated. So then, therefore, you'll see less and less mammals on Earth who breathe oxygen. And eventually, the fish life will go too, because if there's no oxygen in the atmosphere, there's not going to be any oxygen in the water. So guess what? Everything begins to change. So it's the same way with us. So we have this magnetic field of substance around us, which is actually subtle energy. It's this subtle energy, which comes in all different types of frequencies. We call this the auric body. This auric body lasts for eons. For eons. It takes us from one life to the next life, to the next life, to the next life. When you die and leave this physical plane, your auric body will not die. It will live on. The physical body would die. The astral body would die. The auric body would live. In fact, the auric body will keep its constitution to the point where it will produce another body to allow you to live on the perspective, subtle or astral plane that you go to after death, that your intelligence go to after death. The physical body, astral body that you had throughout this lifetime will deteriorate and go back to wherever. And parts of it may become dirt, plant life, or whatever. That part, because it's just a combination of what? Of molecules and cells, right? It's been pulled together by the soul and the auric body in order to live a certain length of time on this physical plane. But the auric body lives on, gaining experience after experience after experience after experience. And whether you go to the lower astral realms, what some people like call the lower hells, or the higher astral realms, some people call heaven. Whether you go to eat, wherever you go, your auric body will form a body that's comparable for you on those particular planes, and then you will live a certain experience on that astral plane for a number of years or whatever. Then you will be reborn again at the appropriate time into the womb of a woman in some zygote or whatever. You'll be born, you'll have another life. And that's called reincarnation. But the auric body will take you there. It will take your intelligence from one life to the next life to the next life. So this auric body is really almost indestructible. Now, what does yoga do? What does Raja Yoga do? Raja Yoga helps us to kill out the distortion of this auric body. This auric body has tremendous power. In order for the auric body to last millions and millions and millions of years, it must have a way of pulling in this tremendous energy, right? Because why? It lasts for millions and millions of years. But the thing about the auric body, especially of mankind, because I like the way Dr. King says it, he said that we chose free will. And this free will have taken us to the point where we don't take into account our actions. We just do what we want to do. And we create all these negative waves of energy that tend to hold us down and make us dumb and stupid. Okay? Now, one of the things that Patanjali said thousands of years ago, he said, stop the modifications. The modifications is these jagged edges, which he described as virities, which is modifications of the valence level of the aura. In other words, the sensory perception that we have through our nose, through our eyes, nose, mouth, ears, touch, our hands, our taste, all those things are being blocked by this, by these jagged edges of our aura. We have created all this distortion. This is distortion. This distortion, it filters out our sensory perceptions. So yoga, Raja Yoga, is a way to smooth those edges down, to allow the body to pick up more and to begin to use the full scope of the auric body or mental body within the auric body to pick up the sensory perception, not only through the filtered eyes or nose or hearing or taste or touch, but through the mental body of the that's make up the auric body. That's almost just as size as the auric body. You have the mental body within the auric body, okay, which is a part of you. Remember, you have a physical body, right? You have an astral body. You have a mental body, which has about 2 or 3, some people say up to 4 different parts to it. Then you have a pranic body, which everything is a pranic body, to be honest with you. There's all different types of pranic bodies. And you have an etheric body, the auric body. Okay? Now, all those bodies function within the auric body. Now, the mental body, there's a superconscious mind, a supraconscious mind, a superconscious mind, a subconscious mind, and a conscious mind. Okay? And it's all within the auric, all of this is within the auric body. So what Raja Yoga does, Raja Yoga gives you techniques in order to calm these waves down, to allow it to be more receptive to the other bodies, to allow you the soul to work through those other bodies. Okay? You, the physical body, use the physical senses. And those physical senses are what? Those physical senses, they're very limited. They're very, very limited. And now we can prove that scientifically. You know, the scientists know that looking through the physical eyes, you only see a small portion of the electronic magnetic spectrum. Just a small portion. Now, if we were to get special eyewear, then we can actually tune into different sections of the magnetic spectrum. Where we can see more than a small part of that spectrum. So thousands of years ago, the yogis had already realized this, and they'd already said, listen, in order for you to see things as it really is, you have to stop the modifications, which is the distortion, and be able to zoom in to the to the many layers of reality, or what we call reality. Okay? So that's what Yama does. Then Yama gives you a set of morals, or some people say like religious rights or whatever to follow as well, right? So certain things you will cut out, and certain things you will do that's highly harmful to the body. Okay. Now, and these simple things in here, we kind of list some of the main things that they talk about. And Yama talks about not injuring a person, truthfulness, no stealing. These things we know, divine conduct, what they call brahmacharya, which is celibacy. If you haven't committed yourself to someone, you haven't committed yourself in marriage or whatever, then you should practice celibacy. And these are things that sap the energy and cause blockages in the earth body. One of the things I didn't mention here, which I should have mentioned, is part of the earth body, is the nadis. Okay, the nadis are within the earth body. Within the nadis, you have 242,000 nadi pathways. Okay? These nadi pathways carry the life force energy throughout the auric field. And it's the thing that allows all the other bodies to exist, because it carries the life force to those bodies. Kind of hook them up and tune them into the soul. The soul uses all of these are just points of expression for the soul. The soul is physical. It's a subtle physical, but it's physical. It's manifested. The soul is the body of the spirit. The spirit is unmanifested. The spirit is the divine spark of God within you. So what happens is that the soul creates all of these different bodies in order to gain experience through reincarnation. One reincarnation after another. All right? Until it gets to the point where it can where the soul can ascend off this earth, as Jesus did. All right? Where Jesus broke the wheel of rebirth by doing what? By ascending, by resurrecting. Elijah reportedly did it. Moses did it. Who else did it? They say Enoch did it. They ascended so that they didn't have to be reborn again. They became cosmic masters to a certain degree. Okay? The Nayama is another series of different observance, religious practices, you know, that help you to more, you know, to help to reframe and kill out more and more distortion within you. And it gives you a set of principles to live by. So you can read through those and see. Asana is a proper way of sitting while practicing this type of practice. Raja Yoga, any type of mental development, any type of yoga really, because Asana is Mudra Yoga, and it's something that's used in most yogas, in all different type of yogas, whether it's Nani Yoga, Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, you know, it's used everywhere. And what it is, it's really to make it simple, it's really a power, it's kind of a power type position where you use this, you use the Mudra Yoga in order to seal the energy within the body and redirect the energy in the body and redistribute and project the energy maybe out of the body or draw energy within the body. It's used, that's what the number 3 is used for. Number 4 is another technique, and all of this helps to do what? All of these help to purify the auric fields. That's what these 4 things do. It helps to purify the auric fields. Number 4 is pranayama. Pranayama is another control of this subtle energy that we talked about earlier. And what it does, it helps to, again, purify the nadi pathways, these 242,000 nadi pathways. Okay? It helps to purify them by what? By breath control. By inhale, exhale, inhale, retention, exhale. A series of breath controls along with imagination, visualization, and mantra. And that's what pranayama, it will, because the nadis, you can control the nadis through the nostrils. Okay? Through the nostrils, through the nostrils and all the sensory perception. Because the eyes, the ears, the mouth, all those things are pathways of the nadis, of the 242,000 nadis. All the 242 nadis, they terminate in the head. And that's what produces your ability to see, to hear, to smell, and to speak. Okay? So pranayama helps you to take control. And this is, it's simple. Think about it. If, you know, there's 3 ways you take in energy. One way is by eating, right? We eat. Another way is drinking, right? Drinking liquids. The third way is breathing. But when you eat, you can stop eating for weeks, maybe even months before you die. Right? You stop drinking, within 3 to 4 days, you're dead. Right? You stop breathing, within minutes, you die. So the most important way of taking in energy is through breath. through breath. So when you learn to control the breath, you control the nadi pathways, the central nervous system. And when you can turn this on and off through a series of techniques, then you can control consciousness, because breath holds consciousness in the body. Okay? Your breath holds consciousness in the body. And it's the most important way to hold consciousness in the body. Okay? So these help purify the body. So when you purify the body this way, then you move to the second side of this, where you do what? You begin to withdraw the senses. Because why? You have brought about control and purification on this side, and now this side you begin to work on what you came here to do, which is take control over your mental body. All right, the mental aspects of it. So there's a series of exercises used to withdraw the senses and withdraw the physical senses and increase the mental awareness within the body. Okay? And first, in order to accomplish concentration, you learn that you can withdraw the senses and still hold consciousness in place. And when you can do that, it will be easy to accomplish concentration. Because concentration is what? Taking the mind down one channel of thought and not altering that. But what is the obstacle in doing that? Anyone? All the distractions. Where does the distractions come from? Huh? Yeah, it's come from the verities, but it's mainly coming from where? Your senses. Because why? Your senses is your ears is wide open, right? Your eyes, your smell, your even your taste buds, right? Because if you smell somebody cooking cake in the next room, it's going to trigger what? The memories of your taste buds. If your mind fluctuates or any one of your senses trigger a past event, you're going to go back to that past event that's connected to either sound, taste, or sight. So when you learn to withdraw the senses, then you can move quicker to gain control over concentration, right? Once you can concentrate, you got to take concentration to the next point, which is contemplation. When you take concentration to contemplation, what happens is when you can focus the mind for long periods of time, you begin to break down the barriers of the barriers that the conscious mind and the senses have built up over lifetimes. In a sense, where you concentrate on something long enough that you begin to merge the what?
The astral and physical sense.
What? The astral and physical senses, right? So when you merge the physical senses with the astral senses, because why? You have, in a sense, negated the physical senses. So what happens to the astral senses? The astral senses do what?
They wake up.
They kick in, right? Because the subconscious mind says something needs to happen here, right? So then what happens? The astral senses kick in to the physical senses, and it produces psychic senses, a psychic ability. Okay. So you become in tune with your astral body and the astral senses, which brings about your ability to see physically and astrally at the same time, bringing about this psychic sense. So all of a sudden you begin to see the aura around the object that you're concentrating on without having any special glasses or machine to look at it. The aura just pop up, a little jagged line around that object. And the first time you see it, it might be just a white light, a white, jagged white light around it. And then more and more concentration, what will happen is you'll begin to see the different colors of that particular aura will pop up. Not only that, you'll begin to have a sense of smell of that aura, of the object that you're concentrating on. You'll begin to hear it, you know, you'll begin to have a sense, a feeling about it, whether it's cold, hot, or whatever, of that particular sense. So as you concentrate, concentration brings about contemplation. Contemplation brings about clairvoyant abilities, psychic abilities, in all the senses. All right? Now, at this level, once your psychic senses have kicked in, and you gain control over those psychic senses for a time you gain control, you use them over and over and over and over, and you gain greater and greater and greater control over it, you move to a higher level of contemplation, where the psychic senses brings on a more advanced level of psychic senses, which it begins to merge with the etheric senses, okay? And when it merges with the etheric senses, you have advanced clairvoyance or advanced psychic ability, where you can see deeper and deeper into something psychically, you know, where you can take control over the energy bodies, over the mental bodies. You can take real control over them, where you can move positive consciousness at will from one end of the world to the next, you know, where at this point, astral projection is done easily with full consciousness, not a semi-conscious state, okay? Where you can project a part of your consciousness or your astral body or your etheric body on the other side of the world, okay? At that point of contemplation, once you've gained control over that for a period of time, and you have it, then you move to meditation, which is true meditation. Not the popular meditation that everyone promotes on television or books or whatever, but a true state of meditation where you move to become one with that you are concentrating and contemplating on, where you actually raise the power of Kundalini. Okay? That's at the base of the spine. So this is, I kind of left a lot of stuff out, but that's just a gist of Raja Yoga, what Raja Yoga does. Okay? Of what Raja Yoga is. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you have to complete like every single step to achieve that heightened state of awareness? Like, let's say, like you're working on the yama, but you couldn't completely abstain from meat or fish. Could you still go through the next steps?
I mean, you can go ahead and go to the next steps. Like I said, everything takes time. You know, everybody can't stop eating meat and fish all at one time. You know, everybody can't do that. It's not, I mean, it's not really recommended to cold turkey something, you know, just stop. I would never recommend it. But it's a benefit if on the long term that you can do it. There's a benefit to it, you know. But I know some people that didn't do it and still developed themselves. So that's a question you asked me. But I would say don't take the road of least resistance. but I know some people that did. They still engage in eating some meats and fish, and they still develop themselves. But you know, there's a drawback to it. In my belief, there's a drawback to it.
But you know, if you feel like you're in that situation, you could keep on eating and just after you advance, you bring yourself off. Just a little at a time.
Yeah, just take time. You don't have to do it all at once. I don't believe it. Some people just doing it all at once. Because in my opinion, I've seen that they go right back to doing it.
Yeah.
If they say, okay, I'm gonna stop eating meat, I'm gonna stop eating all meat, then 3 months, 6 months, it might be a year, they go right back to eating meat. You know. So, but if they gradually do it over a period of time, then they walk away from it and never do it again. So it's best to just gradually do it if that's what you want to do. If you want to become a vegetarian, it's best to do it over a long period of time. Now there's few people that have did it. They say, I'm not going to do it no more, and they don't do it. But the majority of people can't do that. Yeah.
So practices like the concentration practice of staring into a candle flame, does that withdraw all the senses and then concentrate onto, like, say, the visual sense, or the sense of sight?
Yeah.
So that's the one channel you're focusing on, the other channel.
Yeah. That's why you have the number 5. That's why they say work on number 5, withdrawing the senses. Because once you can withdraw the senses, you can redirect the senses. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the science behind it.
So the candlelight practice, you're kind of doing that all at the same time. You're withdrawing the other 4 senses, but you're enhancing the visual sense.
Yeah. You're taking all your concentration
Mm-hmm.
and putting on that. So that's the reason for withdrawing the senses. You know, learning to withdraw the senses, and then learning to redirect the senses. Concentration is redirecting the senses. Okay? You understand?
Yes.
Concentration is getting all the senses and directing it to one channel.
It's doing what? What is? I told you for years. Concentration is what? Directing one's thoughts
To one
down
one channel.
Okay. And that's it. That becomes your work. So if you're directing your thoughts down one channel, then what is that? Directing all your senses down one channel. Alright? Because your thoughts, your mental body produces your mental body gives direction to your senses. The only way you can perceive the outside world is what? Through your senses. Alright. Any other questions?
For the third one, asana. Does mudra yoga is part of that? Like, asana doesn't necessarily only mean the hatha yoga poses. It could also mean the mudras, mudra yoga.
What did I say it was? I said it was what?
Posture.
I said it was mudra yoga. Don't I have mudra yoga up there? Correct posture, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I say correct posture, I said correct posture to do what? What does mudra yoga do?
Seals and redirects
Seal and redirect
energy.
So what does asana do?
The same thing.
Same It's a mudra yoga. Asana is mudra yoga. I don't know if you was here. Was he here when I gave the mudra yoga course over several weeks? Were you here? I gave you all the different mudras.
You gave it
He wasn't here?
packet. He was
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
No.
Well, that's what mudra yoga is. You know, a lot of people like to say that mudra yoga is the hand signs, the asanas, and what else?
Even with breath is mudra, right? Pranayama.
It's a mudra. It's part of a mudra, but it's about the bandhas. All that's mudra yoga.
Anything you do with your physical body.
Yeah, and there's like five different levels of mudra yoga, and it's in that package.
So then Mudra Yoga is Hatha Yoga.
Huh?
Mudra Yoga is the same thing as Hatha Yoga.
Top yoga is mudra yoga.
Hatha yoga is a part of mudra yoga. Yeah. Remember, most yogas are a combination of other yogas. Without that, it's not that. The only reason why they name it is because it's geared towards creating a union with God through the physical body. That's why they would call it Hatha Yoga. But Hatha Yoga is pranayama, mudra yoga, a little bit of raja yoga. You understand? There's a little bit of kriya yoga. You know, it's a little bit of all those things, and it's the beginning of Kundalini yoga. Hatha yoga is. It has all those yogas in it. Raja yoga has all the yogas in it too, right? Raja yoga has Nana yoga. It has the Bhakti yoga. It has Kama yoga. It has pranayama. It has the mudra yoga in it, and it has Kundalini yoga in it. See, so and it has kriya yoga too. It has kriya yoga in it. So it's a combination of all the yogas. When you begin to study all the yogas, you begin to see that they have bits and pieces of the other yogas within it. All right. So don't let that confuse you. You know, I don't think there's not a yoga that exists that don't have Jnana yoga and Raja yoga in it, right? And I don't think there's a yoga that exists that don't have pranayama in it. All of them have pranayama in it. I think all of them have a degree of Bhakti yoga in it too. You know, so I mean, don't let that confuse you. What?
And Karma Yoga.
Yeah, I said Kama yoga. I said Jnana and Kama yoga. All yogas have Jnana and Kama yoga in it. All yogas have Jnana and Kama yoga. It cannot exist without Jnana. Because Jnana is what? Wisdom, or the knowledge of it. And Kama yoga is to action, is movement. You know. Any other questions? So everybody understand?
In talking specifically about the bodies, like the astral and the etheric, when you start doing these practices and waking up those senses, what happens to those other bodies? Do they start becoming more active? Do they start becoming more enlivened? Or?
In the sense of within the conscious mind, you saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start becoming more aware of those bodies and you start becoming more present.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Who in here, when they was a child, they daydreamed a lot? Who did a lot of daydreaming?
I still daydream a lot.
Now, was your daydreaming very active? Like real almost? In most cases, that means stupor, right?
Mhm.
Everybody looking at you over there in a stupor,
Mhm.
but you having the time of your life,
Mhm.
right? You running around and you in this imaginary land and you doing whatever you gotta do, and you actually in a projected state, see? And that's what the astral body. Now, as you get older and your physical senses kick in more than what your astral senses, you lose that ability to do that. See? You lose that ability to do it. So, and then when you daydream like that, you come out and you feel almost refreshed, right? Feel better, you know. so, but you lose that, and you begin to pull more on the physical world, on the physical energy, and you lose touch with your astral and mental bodies. So, these type of yogas is to help bring about a balance, to bring that balance back in control. You know, where you can enter that world again. You know, that mental world. So that's what you want to do.
Is part of the reason why you lose that ability as you grow older is not only because of like the education system and all that, but could it be because of like for a man, for example, like testosterone levels or something like that?
Yeah, well, the yogis say that the pituitary gland kicks in. You know, so that's a physical part of it, but the other part of it is your actions. Your hormones, just like you say, your hormones take another level, and then you get more interested in females, and and all of this, or females get more interested in males or whatever, and then they just go in a whole different direction, or you get a thirst for adult life, and you go in a whole other direction, and it saps your energy.
But you can learn to control that, so that you can if you had the right kind of coming up, right kind of upbringing, you can learn to control that, so that you can keep it open a little too, and be able to from time to time go into it, so you can develop yourself further on.
But a lot of yogi schools, they rather take in young people,
Yeah.
before they lose that ability, so that they can train them along the way.
What does a pituitary gland do?
You're reading PDF.
It's the same thing with
I'm still reading it.
the testosterone or whatever.
Oh.
There's no other questions, we can begin to close out. There's no questions? If there's no questions, let's close out.